rolling. Okay. Hi. This is awesome.
This is
So,
awesome.
Amy, welcome to the show. And we're going to do the awkward podcasty thing of we said hi and how are you and exchange pleasantries before the actual recording started, but we're going to do it for the recording anyway. So, hi, Amy. How are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm really good. Thank you so much. Despite
Uh,
having some sick kids, I'm smiling and happy.
And I'll also give the introduction to the podcast as well, because this is relatively new. We just decided on the name. So, welcome to the first or second, depending on which one we edit first, episode of the Team Check In. I'm Emre, and today with me, I have amateur boogie boarder, overall great person. Oh, and also, she just happens to be the global head of people and culture at Competitive Capabilities International, Amy Brand. Hi. Okay. Wow. That was a mouthful.
Was gonna say that was a mouthful, but I'm delighted to be here.
Great. And I'm definitely gonna add in some like clapping noises to this. So the last time we spoke to each other, you were actually going through some transitions in your workplace, right? You were implementing some new stuff.
Yeah.
And that's kind of one of the reasons we had to delay the podcast. I'm not mad. I'm only disappointed. So, and for people who don't know, that's just parents speak for being mad. But so can you tell me a bit about the changes that you were going through and what you were implementing?
A new CEO joined us, a really awesome, disruptive leader called
Oh,
Jay Milligan joined us last June. I'm very proud that I was able to hire and attract him to CCI, to Competitive Capabilities International. And he's been reviewing the organization over the last period of time,
uh-huh.
and decided that our organization needed to realign to focus on some core capabilities rather than being geographically aligned. We've shifted from having regional leaders of Europe, America, China,
Uh-huh.
to actually looking at our core capabilities of consulting, solutions, technology. Um, and so we've realigned our organization around those core capabilities. And of course, sales, marketing, and account management, can't forget that. But all of those things, apart from technology, was done within the region. And now we've moving to sort of globalize each of those capabilities.
That's awesome. And one thing I kind of glossed over, I just assumed everyone knows like what CCI is, but can you, for the listeners who might not know your awesome company, just in a quick tidbit, just tell them what Competitive Capabilities International actually does?
We're an asset-based consulting company. So people might say they know what consulting is, but what is asset-based? So we have
Mhm.
a wonderful product called Track, which helps companies primarily in the manufacturing space become more efficient and effective. And we've been doing that for over 35 years. So we bring our amazing product with all of this knowledge from the clients we've worked with over the last 35 years, together with amazing consultants that we have all over the world to really enhance the operations and efficiency of our clients and soon to be clients.
Awesome, awesome. And look, as you were going through the description, I just went through this entire mug of coffee. Are you a big coffee drinker, by the way?
No, I don't drink coffee at all,
None?
ever.
Oh,
I've
ever.
never, ever had coffee. I'm a tea person.
You're a tea person. Okay.
Yeah.
So, do you not like the taste or like the whole caffeinated effect of it?
I don't know. I just remember my mother was a monster without coffee. And I think because of that, I decided not to start. And I just started on tea and kept going on that path. But I've heard coffee is very good for you. So maybe I should try.
Awesome. There was this, I don't remember where I heard this, but there was this whole gag about if no one had discovered coffee up until now, and if I came to you with this little thing in my hand, hey, taste this, we're gonna sell this, you would think I was crazy. Because it
I think
objectively just,
it
yeah,
smells amazing. um,
Definitely, definitely.
but not sure
But
about the taste.
yeah, but like the expert coffee people just tell me I don't know how to brew it, and I just can't tell the difference between any of it. But yeah, when one of your friends just gets really into coffee and the whole like roastery and the beans, they just immediately turn incredibly pretentious, right? They
Absolutely.
they scold you over like Starbucks choices and whatnot. Okay, and going back to CCI, as I said before in my long-winded intro, you are the global head of people and culture, right?
Actually, my title last week just changed to Chief People Officer,
Oh
along
wow.
with the realignment. Yes.
Awesome. Awesome.
But I don't want to drop the culture piece, so I have to see how to fit that in as well.
Yeah, I was just about to ask, so you guys are done with culture?
Definitely not done with
Fully,
culture. We're
fully?
only starting with culture.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And a lot of people would just like in your position usually just go with the old-fashioned title, right? HR, Human Resources, Global Head of HR. And again, the last time we spoke, you told me that you specifically changed that with yourself, right?
Yeah.
And can you tell me a bit about why you actually went with that?
I I think that my role is around creating an amazing environment and culture which gets the best out of every single person. I want to help every single person do their best work. And I
Uh-huh.
think HR, human resources, it just sounds horrendous, doesn't it? It's like,
Right?
no, it's not resources, it's people, individual people that we want to get the best out of. So I feel it's a very antiquated, old fashioned, not very nice title. And I also see people, I feel so proud of what I do and what my
Uh-huh.
team does and the impact we have. But when you tell people you work in HR, they kind of give you a bit of a shiver or, ooh. And I don't know what, the companies I've worked in have really
Uh-huh.
focused on people and culture, and I think getting the best out of people. So yeah, I hate that term, and that's that's why I immediately set about
Yeah.
changing my title initially when I came to this company.
Yeah, and I totally get it. And it might seem small, but words do have power, right? And they come with their own connotations. And I think most of the bad rep like HR departments really got came through like the show The Office, where just
Mm,
everyone hated on Toby the HR guy and whatnot. But yeah, overall, like HR got a really bad rep, and I get it. Treating people like resources, like that doesn't sound the
very
nicest.
human. It
Yeah.
doesn't sound
Yeah,
very human.
exactly. It does sound kind of like some robots took over and they're harvesting stuff from the brains of the humans they have trapped, and yeah, they're calling them human resources. And I have a pet peeve like that as well. One terminology that I really hate is the word probation review.
Mm,
I hate that. I just hate that term because who's on probation? Why are we borrowing language from the criminal justice system in the workplace? Because
so
yeah,
we changed that to settling in period.
really
For the same reason. It does sound like the person is a
awesome.
criminal and they're out on probation. So I agree with you. I think language really matters, and probation makes people feel nervous when actually settling in period is more around, have you settled in? Are we clear? Are you feeling it? Are you enjoying it? Are we getting the best out of you? Are you,
Uh-huh.
yeah, happy to be here and working well and as we expect you to work? So we did actually change the language.
Awesome. And for those listening, we didn't plan this. This is new
No.
to me as well. We did not plan this. And that's awesome. Because what really bothered me with the whole probation lingo is that it's already really hard to get a good job, right? You work hard, you send in your resume and you beat like thousands of people for the job, you finally got it, and then you go through a probation period where, oh my God, am I going to lose this gig? And
Yeah.
that's really stressful. And I think like you should know better than me that like that does something to people, that affects people's performances. And the first 2 months, it's supposed to be the honeymoon period, right?
It's about trust. I think
Exactly.
you're right. You've gone through this process where you've spoken to the person a few times, gathered references, and really said, are they a fit? Yes, they are. We need to back our decision. We don't go, oh, well, let's see and let's make the person feel nervous. It is around trusting the person from the outset, but also being able to have adult conversations. Is this what you expected it to be? Are you living up to our
Uh-huh.
expectations? Let's have adult to adult conversations around that, and it is mutual, right? So it can be hard for people to find jobs, but I think we spend the vast majority of our time working. We also have to be happy. So if I'm
Yeah,
going to
big
have
time.
people doing their best work, they need to feel engaged. They need to feel like this was the right place for them and they made the right decision, which is why it's so important, those conversations through the interview process, being honest. We have to be honest about what's great about working here, but also the challenges, because when you join, you're going to see that, right? You're going to know, hey, they weren't honest, and that doesn't start the relationship right.
Yeah,
So
yeah, it's not all sunshine and rainbows all the time, but I mean, just as much as we can make it sunshine and rainbows, we can,
yeah,
but we do have those rain clouds and those thunderstorms, and that's part of the job. And
yeah,
seeing how people cope with that, settling in period, right? That was the name you guys came with.
yeah,
That's awesome because I wrote a blog post about this on my during my early days with Teamflect, and I was really passionate about this. I talked a big game about hating the name probation reviews or probation period, but I didn't suggest anything else. That whole article is me having a huge rant and hating the title probation reviews, but never actually offering anything in return. And I just
there you
ended the
go.
whole thing and I just ended the whole article with, well, you guys are the guys with the fancy titles. Figure something out. Just do you.
Now you've
But
got a blog part two with a
yeah,
solution.
exactly. Exactly. Probation review part two, electric boogaloo. I got it. Great. Awesome. Awesome. And thank you for touching up on this with me. And again, something we spoke about the last time we were having a conversation and we were doing a success story. You you told me about this strategy, this practice you implemented, right? It was called one page HR.
One page everything, or
One page
strategy
everything.
on a
Sorry.
page.
Yeah, okay. One page everything. So, can you tell me a bit about one page everything?
Yeah, so we brought in a strategy consultant about year and a half, 2 years ago, to work with
Hmm.
us on being really clear on our strategy going forward. And we talked a bit about that as part of the success story, right?
Hmm.
And how we wanted clarity for everyone in the organization around how they could contribute to the strategy. Um, but this consultant had a really nice framework and methodology called One Page Everything. And it's, how do you understand your strategy on a page? And
Hmm.
his piece was, you should be able to wake someone up at 3 o'clock in the morning and they can tell you what it is because it's clear, it's succinct, and it's simple. Um, and I think, we're in a world where people are overwhelmed, and
Hmm.
we don't remember much. I think our brain remembers 3 to 5 points maximum. So when you start to have reams and reams of information, you lose people. So it
Yeah.
is around, how do you kind of focus on the most critical pieces, and put those on a page such that people can be woken up. But that does not go talk to our culture. We do not actively wake people up at 3 o'clock in the morning and
Okay,
say,
good.
"Hey, do
I
you
was
remember
just
this?"
about to ask you to clarify that.
So it's more in principle, can people
Uh-huh.
remember? And I think about my old company, Swiss Re, which is a reinsurance company, and we shifted to behaviors. And there were three: be courageous, adapt at speed, create joint movement. Everyone could remember them. They're easy to remember, but it's
Hmm.
three. And our brains work best in smaller numbers.
Right?
Um,
I mean,
yeah.
back when I used to teach, as I told you, back when I was a teacher, I did my research on attention spans and how
Yes.
much people can remember. And it shocked me to find out that the average kid has an attention span that is 8 seconds long, so eight
Yeah.
minutes long, right?
Oh,
After eight, not 8 seconds, no, 8 minutes long, right? 8 second would be crazy. No, I would have quit a long time ago. But the average child has an 8 minute attention span. And I would tell this to their parents during parent teacher meetings. And I would say, yeah, your kid has an 8 minute attention span, and that's perfectly normal. So that's how I structure the lessons. And they would
yeah,
all be shocked. They would go like, like kids have an 8 minute attention span? And I'd go like, what are you surprised about? You have a 12-minute attention span, because that's
yeah.
the case with adults. We're slowly but surely losing our attention spans and the ability to remember things. Because we're constantly being bombarded with all sorts of stimulation and info and data, and it's really hard to keep stuff in our minds. And now,
So,
yeah, go on.
well, interesting stat in that regard, which we used when we were looking at our learning transformation internally, is if you go on a course, if you don't use what you've learned within 2 weeks, you lose 80% of it.
Right?
Yeah,
Definitely. So if it's
yeah.
not practiced, it's gone.
It's gone quite quickly. I think mine is closer to 90 or 95. Honestly, I feel like my attention span is shorter, but we've shifted to resources before courses.
Uh-huh.
So, how do you show people, like if we think about YouTube and if I'm at home and I need to change a light bulb and I haven't done it for a year or a year and a half, what are the 3 steps or 5 steps or whatever I need to take?
Uh-huh.
That's the resource I need at that point that I need it.
Yeah, exactly.
So it goes to that attention span thing. We just can't remember. My brain starts to reject information at a certain point. I just can't retain it.
That the exact thing happened to me the first time I got a job, right? I was faced with the terrifying challenge of having to tie a tie. And I had never done that before. Like all through high school, I made it through college without never once touching a tie. And so I looked it up, did a bunch of tutorials, learned how to do it once, and then I totally forgot about it.
Yeah.
And now I'm totally dependent on those tutorials. If I get a new like job interview and whatnot, if I have to wear a tie, I just look it up. I just can't keep that thing in my head. But I don't know if it's the same in your organization, but I think workplaces are also shifting away from that like formal attire, ties and
Mm.
jackets stuff as well, right?
Well, you can see I'm not. So
Yeah.
I'm a bit bitter about this actually, because under my bed I have all of my suits from my past life, and I don't get to wear them anymore. And but they were expensive and I can't quite
Uh-huh.
throw them away. But yeah, we're, I guess we're much less formal
Uh-huh.
than we used to be. Um,
And somehow
Really.
companies have not gone bankrupt yet. So
Yeah,
I
no,
I guess
exactly.
yeah.
I think there is something about dressing to impress
Uh-huh.
also at
For sure.
particular times. I mean, if I'm sitting here in my pajamas, I don't know if mentally I'm as kind of with
Uh-huh.
it as if I'm properly dressed. But I think in the world, we've kind of moved backwards from very, very formal ways of
Hmm.
dressing, which I think
And
is a good thing. Makes people feel more comfortable.
yeah, and one of the things that came with this whole like COVID and we're all like in front of computers now and we're doing remote meetings is people only started to dress halfway up. Right? So
Yeah,
you can just wear like, pajamas on the bottom, that's fine as long as you just like tuck your shirt in and you still look good from the waist
from the
up.
top up. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
And
I never did that though, even during COVID.
really,
No,
see that's a
th-
matter of principle though.
mentally, I needed to get up, get exercise, get showered, and
Uh-huh.
dress for
No, for
my
me it felt
mental
like I was
well-being.
yeah, for me it felt like I was sneaking something by the boss. Like, oh yeah, because like growing up, high school, college, I was a rocker. I was supposed to be a rebel. So when I got my first 9 to 5 job, it felt like conforming. And just like I resented myself just a little bit. So now if I'm like working behind like a camera, I'm like, I'm not gonna wear like pants now. I'm just gonna be in my pajamas because that's how you stick it to the man. That was me being punk rock in my like late
That was
20s
you
now.
being a rebel. Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
I didn't feel that need.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes so much sense. And so, how long have you been in people and culture and in general?
Oh, now I'm going to give away my age. So almost so about
Sorry.
20 years. Almost 20 years.
So, you've been at this since high school,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. It's amazing. Started early.
Yeah, started early, definitely.
Didn't bother getting a degree or anything, just went straight in.
And you were like one of those naturals and geniuses, so they
Yeah,
snapped you right out, right?
yeah, exactly.
Awesome. And uh, I have this question for you. So, if you look back to the beginning of your career, right, how do you think you've grown and changed throughout your career? And what are some of like the biggest improvements you had like in how you manage? I just failed to form that sentence. I just failed at forming that sentence. But
And
you get it. How have you grown? That's the question.
I mean, I've grown so much. I guess in 20 years, anyone would grow a lot. I think
Uh-huh.
it's also how the profession has grown,
Uh-huh.
from personnel to HR to
Mm-hmm.
people or people and culture,
Mm-hmm.
and how we as a profession have changed over many years. So this piece around the probation period or
Uh-huh.
performance management and strict calibration and how you treat people, I think things have shifted so much. And
Mm-hmm.
actually, a lot of the things that were seen as best practice in the past are really not best practice at all. So
Yeah.
think about the annual engagement survey. It's such a crazy concept. Ask people once a year how they're feeling. I mean, jeepers, if you ask me once a week, the next week I could be feeling completely different. How did we believe that by asking people once a year how they were feeling and building lots of plans around that, that made sense? It really didn't. So there's so many things like that that have changed so much. And, process is important, but there's also something about judgment and how we
Mm-hmm.
treat people as adults and how we treat people as human beings. And I think a big thing that shifted for me anyway is I think psychology is so important. Where I
Definitely.
started, it was really around process, but now I think people in people and culture in this field, we need to be experts in human behavior. How do we get the best out of people? How do people tick? How do we use models of psychology to best understand who people are and what makes them tick? Borrowing techniques from marketing, which would have been unheard of years ago. So
Right?
personas, or we'll talk about managing a change versus actually marketing a change, because when you want something to change, you actually have to sell it. You don't just communicate it and expect that it'll happen. So I think there's so many beautiful trends these days that have really shifted, I think, in the good companies, shifted how we approach the whole field. And I feel like that's where I've grown from kind of process and human resources to people and culture.
All right, let's take a small break. I'm interrupting your regularly scheduled podcast to talk to you about Teamflect. Teamflect is the single best performance management software for Microsoft Teams. It is an all-in-one solution. And when I say all-in-one, I mean all-in-one. You want to create tasks? There you go, create tasks. You want to set goals? Set goals all you want. You want to exchange customizable recognitions? Sure, Teamflect has employee engagement for days. You can even conduct entire performance review cycles using customizable performance review templates without ever having to leave Microsoft Teams. One of the biggest problems with remote work these days is that companies drown their employees in software. You use one platform for video calls, another one for performance reviews, and then another one for tasks. Yeah, that's counterintuitive. With Teamflect, every single thing you might need from performance management will be right inside Microsoft Teams. Oh, and the best part is, Teamflect is absolutely free for up to 10 users. And I don't mean a trial period or Teamflect Lite version. I mean free with full functionality for up to 10 users. So you can start by demoing Teamflect with a 10 people group, get their feedback, and if you like it, you can roll it out company-wide. What are you waiting for? Go to teamflect.com and schedule your free demo today. Now, back to the show. And we are back with Amy Brand. We did take a small break, but through the magic of podcasting, television, or whatever media you're watching this on, it will be seamless for you, other than possibly a quick 5-second costume change. But some people do say, sometimes people in HR are magicians, right? Or rock stars, right? So you never know. And when we left things off, we were talking about your journey through people and culture and human resources management, etc., and everything you learned along the way.
Mm.
And I just want to move things forward now. Right? We have all these new trends coming up every day, whatever. And if you, what do you think? Like in the that classic question, where do you see yourself in 5 years? That, by the way, do you ask that to people? Did you ever ask that to people? Is it too much of a cliche now, or do
I
people
think
still ask that?
I think it's a bit of a cliche. I think the world is changing so quickly. And I love the statistic. It's something like, I don't know, 60% of the jobs my kids will do. I've got a 5-year-old and an 8-year-old don't exist yet. So I don't really ask that question. I ask about what's important to someone from a work perspective and where they want to grow rather than where they see themselves in 5 or 10 years.
Yeah, because I remember I was asked that once in an interview, and my immediate reaction was, "Wow, you guys really ask that?" And they said, "Yeah, we do ask it." And I just went like, "Well, I don't know." I
I
mean,
think that's a good answer. I mean, honestly, the world does change so rapidly.
right?
For me, it's around ongoing growth. What you want to see is people who have a growth mindset, who want to kind of
Mhm.
develop themselves and develop their skills. But actually, it's not a linear. In the past, when we would look at succession planning, you would say, okay, we want to grow this person into that role in 5 years, but the world doesn't
Mhm.
work like that. You have so many curveballs along the way. So I don't think it's a realistic thing to look at anymore,
Uh,
unfortunately.
And is it just me, or like is job loyalty, or like loyalty to like a one particular firm, is that slowly becoming a thing of the past?
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, all the statistics show that that is a thing of the past. I think what's really interesting at the moment is industry hopping,
Uh-huh.
which is actually showing that people are transferring their skills from across different industries. And in the past, we would want people with backgrounds in that industry and who had proven they could do it in that industry. But actually now we're seeing lots of people transfer their skills into different industries and doing different things.
Yeah, I remember I got my first job as an English teacher, and in the interview, like they asked me, like, do you have any experience speaking in front of people? And I just went like, well, I used to make music in front of drunk college kids, and I don't think your eighth graders are going to be as mean as them, so I can handle them.
Yeah.
And, but do you s- uh, do you think there's a specific reason for people not staying in single organization for too long, or is it a Gen Z thing in your opinion, or is it just how things have evolved so far?
I think it is I think it is a generational thing. I think
Mhm.
definitely with the baby boomers, it was a job for
Mhm.
life. Um, these days, it's absolutely not a job for life, and it's
Mhm.
around exploring and different experiences. And there's so much out there. I mean, it still blows my mind that there are jobs. Being an influencer is a job. I mean, I can't even imagine that when I was growing up or at university, and that's only 20 years ago. It's not that long ago. So I do think it's a generational thing. I think that um, our employees today also have different expectations about what they want and what's important to them. And they're seeking that, and they're seeking those companies that are doing things differently and prioritize work life integration and balance and everything else. And so yeah, I think even if I look at my company, we've got older people who've generally stayed, but younger people who are kind of moving around a lot more.
Hmm.
And I think it's a good thing. You know, I stayed in my first company for 6 or 7 years, then 10 years. But when you move industries or move companies and move managers, you also learn so much. So I actually
Hmm.
think staying for a few years is good, developing a breadth of experience. But then I think it is good to see different things from a growth perspective.
There you go. And I mean, you just brought like industry hopping up, right? That's one
Yeah,
of the big buzzwords going around right now. And before we dive into those big buzzwords, uh, it's like 2023, quiet quit, like 2022, quiet quitting was a whole deal, and everyone was suddenly talking about it out of the
yeah.
blue. So if we can do like some projection, what do you think people will be talking about? Right, 2023, we're almost halfway through it now. So at the end of the year, going into 2024, can you see like, oh yeah, everyone will be so stoked about this in like the upcoming year. All the human resources departments, they'll be trying to dive into this or implement this. What do you see as like an upcoming trend?
Um, it's a trend already, but it's not really taken off, is the 4-day work week being paid for 5 days. So there's lots of experiments happening. Yeah, I know we're both
Fingers
saying our
crossed.
prayers. So there's lots of experiments happening in different countries around that. So I think that's
Mhm,
going to be something that continues to be something to look at going forward. Um, the other thing is I think we're going into a recession, right? We've just had
mhm.
the banking crisis in the US,
Yes.
which is now sort of taking down banking stocks. You're talking
Hmm.
about a recession in many different places around the world. So we're looking at maybe, is it another financial crisis? Hopefully not, but it's certainly a
Hmm.
recession. Um, so that's quite interesting in terms of what that means. And you have the high inflationary environment around the world, which is challenging. But you also have post-COVID with people saying, "Well, I'll only accept, my life is really important, so I'm not going to
Hmm.
work." Like a maniac for companies anymore. So I don't know what all of those things bring together in
Hmm.
terms of a trend, but it will bring a different dynamic into the market. We actually have a war for talent at the moment where
Hmm.
we don't have enough people applying for roles. Um, but then we have a recession. So are people going to kind of continue with the quiet quitting and sticking with
Hmm.
better the devil they know? We've had all the
Hmm.
tech layoffs recently as well.
That was
So
insane.
no, and it's challenging, right? And some of the way people did it. I mean, I just read about Elon Musk and some of the Twitter stuff. That's horrendous to
Yeah,
read about.
especially I can't remember his name, this Norwegian person who was
Yeah,
struggling with a disability,
yeah,
and Elon tweeted, "Was he actually working?" Which is just
yeah. No,
one of
it's
the
just
most offensive
horrendous.
things he could have tweeted.
Yeah. So it's a really interesting market and dynamic. There's a lot of tech layoffs at the moment. Now you see the banking crisis is something spreading. So you
Mhm,
start to have redundancies. And that's worrying for people, right? So you want that work-life balance. But actually, are the opportunities as much as you thought they were? And is it better the devil you know than the devil you don't yet know?
exactly.
So something we talked about years and years ago, when I worked in kind of the employee engagement area, was retained but disengaged, and that was during the financial crisis, which is making me feel very old. But that wasn't a great phenomenon. It was a bit like quiet quitting. We've retained the
Hmm.
people because they're
Hmm.
here and they're not leaving, because actually they're kind of scared of going anywhere else
Hmm.
because bad things might happen from a
Hmm.
job security perspective. But are they engaged? So I wonder, could that be a trend again, given the market dynamics? I don't know. It'll be interesting to see.
Exactly. I think there's this general psyche in like, I'm not gonna say like in particular fields, but there's this general psyche going on in the world where we were a little hopeless in the recent times, right, with COVID, and then now that's evolving into disillusionment and anger,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Because we had all these billionaires who were everyone was really high on them. And it was like yesterday when everyone was so high on Elon or Sam Bankman-Fried. And now they're all falling off of their pedestals. Silicon
Mm,
Valley banking crisis is going down, and people are now excited. Great, they're going to bail out the banks again using taxpayer dollars. So
mm,
now there's this wave of disillusionment and anger going on. And I think that really pairs up with your notion of retained but disengaged. Right?
mm.
That's the thing. It rhymes. I love it. Totally stealing it.
Yeah, but I hate the term and I hated it at
Hmm.
the time because it's sort of for me, envisage like zombies, like you're there, but you're not like I think work is so important. We spend the vast majority of our time at work. If
Hmm.
we're not engaged, but we're just there,
Hmm.
that's not the environment that I want to create in my company. I want people to feel excited about the future, bought into the purpose, feeling like they're doing meaningful work. Retained but disengaged to me is like people just there, but a shadow of who they should be and what we should be getting out of them. So it's like zombies, which I really I really don't like.
Recently, people have been going, "Oh, you are such snowflakes. You want to be fulfilled at work. Work is just work. You pay your dues and then you're done." Well, like you said, we spend so much time at work. So most of our day is spent during work. So we need that fulfillment.
Yeah,
And that pays off in leagues through like productivity and performance.
yeah. It's about making a difference.
Mhm.
Um, I think everyone wants to make a difference in some small way, and you see the impact that even small things at work you can have to make people feel happier or better or, grow them. We've someone in my team and she's just become so independent. We brought her in as an intern and she was
Mhm.
nervous, and now she's challenging managers and she's kicking ass, which is brilliant and it's amazing to see. And she's so happy. And I mean, if we're spending 8, and many of us spend many more than 8 hours a day at work, we need to be doing something meaningful or find meaning in what we're doing and doing it with great people, because
Mhm.
otherwise that's, what percent it's half our lives, or half our days, or, a third of our days are spent there. If it's not meaningful, then that's not fun, right? That's
I,
not good as we think
I,
about our overall lives.
that's a how proud did you feel as the head of people and culture when you watched like the shy intern grow into a total ass kicker?
Yeah. And I called her yesterday and said it came up in the review of her manager. And I
Mhm.
just said, I just wanted to say, well done, because it makes me feel so proud. I feel emotional thinking about her growth and development. And that was such an amazing conversation for me because she was so emotional she could see it, she could see how far she's come, and we talked about where she's going, right? Not 5 years, but just
Mhm.
the path that she continues on to keep gaining skills, to keep gaining confidence. And I
Uh-huh.
mean, that's amazing when you see someone who's gone from there to there in terms of their confidence and their impact. It
And
makes me feel so happy.
yeah, that's people and culture right there, right?
Yeah,
People talk about feeling invested in their work, or
yeah,
it's very rare that like a regular ordinary Joe feels invested in like the success of the company. But you're in people and culture, so you're actually invested in these journeys that people take inside the organization.
yeah.
And yeah, you have almost like this proud mama bear moment.
Yeah, no, definitely. I read this lovely, I don't know where I read it, but it said,
By the way, can you
employee.
move your mic a little closer to your
Oh,
mouth? I think, yeah,
sorry. Is that better?
just a bit, just a bit. I think the voice dropped down just a little.
Okay. Is this
Okay,
better?
yeah,
I'll talk
perfect.
a bit
Yeah,
louder.
better.
I read this, I don't know where I read it, but it talked about, I think it was engagement is how you
Uh-huh.
feel on a Sunday night before your week. And are you feeling
Exactly.
like there's bats in your belly, like crazy bats, or are there, is there excitement and looking
Hmm.
forward to the week ahead? And I think that's such a good indicator. And we definitely want to turn the bats into whatever the
Butterflies.
positive things, bats into butterflies. Yeah, exactly.
All right. Okay. I think you just found the title of this episode, Bats into Butterflies. I love it. This is perfect. And I think that's enough for us to wrap up now. I'm not
Okay.
going to take up any more of your time. This has been incredible and well worth the effort. And I think people listening will appreciate that. Yeah, we're so glad you guys spent 2 weeks scheduling and another 2 weeks recording. Well, we did it and it was totally worth it. Amy, always a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you so much. Always a
Uh,
pleasure talking to you too.
And is there anything you want to plug? If people want to reach you, where can they reach you? Or like if they can, if they want to ask questions or through LinkedIn, whatever.
Yeah, LinkedIn is great. I'm Amy Brand on LinkedIn, and I love connecting with other people to see what everyone else is doing so I can steal with pride. Because I really love hearing about other companies and what progressive things people are doing. And I love sharing because, sharing is caring, but it makes the world a better place in terms of company culture.
Exactly. Sharing is caring. I love it. We can end on that. So
Thanks.
that this has been the team check-in from here, Emre and Amy Brand. Have a good one. Bye bye. Have a great week.
Bye.